Okay, looks like we're streaming. I'm getting a stream status good. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been up for 2 hours and all of a sudden now my voice is starting to go. It's interesting how that works. All right, just gonna let everything sort of get settled in and get ready to go. Waiting for the live stream thing to kick in on YouTube. It's already kicked in my software and in the back end. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. Let's see. Now I gotta figure out what to do with the chat window. There it is. Okay. And here I am. All right, cool. We're all set. It's another Sunday morning here in the United States. The rest of you are where you are. Actually, where is everybody? We have been doing that lately in the beginning of the shows. People kick in and say where they're watching from. So now would be a good time to do that. That'd be kind of cool. I hope you're all having a good day, whether it's a morning, an evening, or an afternoon. Currently here, it is muggy. It is very humid. It's been humid for days. It's not super hot out right now, but it's humid, and that is a bummer. We've got Netherlands. We've got it's exactly midnight here. That's cool. All right. Washington State, Northern Germany. Checking in. That's cool. Sweden. Fayetteville, Arkansas. Upper Michigan. Upper Michigan is not too far away from where I am. Madison, that's also very close to where I am. Netherlands. All right. Scotland, Australia, Japan, New Jersey, Lithuania. Probably my first Lithuania. I'm pretty sure of it. UK, cool. MechWarrior is from the internet, sure. Southeast of England. Saskatchewan. I've always liked the word Saskatchewan. I think I'm saying it properly. I'm not sure. I'm gonna scooch a little bit closer. There we go. All right, so let's see here. Chicago, too rainy to base here this weekend. That's my friend Matt Sears, and Matt's going to be moderating today in case there's any kind of shenanigans in the chat that needs to be dealt with swiftly and harshly. So I appreciate Matt working on that. Matt is half of the team that is Hyacinth Games. I've talked about Rec Age before. Matt and I are chums, and so if you go back to around Adepticon time, late or early April, there's a video of Matt and his partner Anton, his business partner, talking about Rec Age, which is post-apocalyptic, so therefore I'm a fan, generally how it works. Let's see here. Malaysia, Netherlands, Milwaukee, Sweden, Buckinghamshire. I probably said that wrong. I apologize. Indonesia. Pennsylvania. One of the few times he's caught the live show. Well, welcome, Jeffrey. Poland. Let's see here. What else have we got? Did I miss anybody? I think we're good. California. Wales. Copenhagen. Cool. So today I'm going to talk about, at some point, I'm going to go through and show you, as it said in the description and on the front card there, I'm going to show you some of my finished 40K models that I painted in some situations years ago, but I kind of just want to go over and kind of look, and so you can kind of see, like, I think I have gleaned information from people at conventions when I've looked at a model of theirs and said, wow, I like that a lot, and then we have a conversation about how, oh, well, I did this here and I did this here and this is why I did this and this is the technique. So I thought there might be some use to me just kind of showing you some of the stuff that I've done in the past and explaining either why or how or whatever, and just that kind of thing. And I never painted a ton for 40K. I never had a finished army. I had my chaos stuff was getting there, and then I kind of switched over to Space Marines and then didn't get super far with that. So I've got more chaos stuff to show you really than not. But still, I figured it'd be kind of interesting to kind of go through some of it and see how those things go. Let's see here. Who else have we got checking in? California, Wales, Copenhagen, Moscow. Cool. Aussie land. I'm going to assume that's Australia. China. Nice. Let's see here. Germany. +5 longsword with 4d6 bonus fire damage. That's a long YouTube name, but I appreciate it. Let's see here. So, what have I been doing since the last show? Well, I've been working a lot. I've been, which is fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy being employed, and I enjoy the job that I'm doing, which is a lot of fun. I'm also, hobby-wise, I've been mainly working on terrain. I kind of wanted to take a bit of a break from painting figures, and I've been mostly working on terrain. If you've been following me on social media, you've probably seen some of the pictures. I'm very close to being done with 1, 2, 3 different pieces. The ruins from Lord of the Rings. Asking my wife. The ruins of Osgiliath. Those are basically done. I just need to put spray stuff on them, varnish, a matte varnish. And then the Dreadstone Blight, which is that ruined round tower, that's also done. And I'm going to be probably talking about those maybe next week, or I'll be showing them someplace. And then the Baleful Realm Gates, which is basically a newer piece of terrain that Games Workshop made specifically for Age of Sigmar. Those are 99% done. There's like a couple of little highlights and some washes I need to do, and then I need to just do the spray varnish, and then they'll be done. And they turned out well. I liked how all 3 of them turned out, so I'll definitely be taking some pictures and showing you guys kind of what kind of stuff I've got, kind of some of the processes and things like that. But that's been mainly the hobby time that I've had. It's been predominantly all that stuff, so that's been cool. I do enjoy working on terrain. I'm hoping to start doing some more, I hate to say custom, but hand-built stuff, not something from a kit. I'd like to do a little bit more of that here and there, so yeah. Let's see here. What else have we got? Tempe, Arizona. Coastal Canada. Osgiliath. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know why. I just can't get that word quite right. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Good morning, Maya. Sorry, I probably mispronounced that. Let me see here. Oh, there's a question from Stromrager. Have you seen the new Warhammer 40k Death Mask box set? I have not. I mean, I know that it's out there. I know it's it's a Death Watch versus some flavor of Eldar Harlequins, I think. So that's cool. It's interesting kind of how GW is doing this thing now where they keep releasing these box sets where you get... Now, the thing I don't know about this box set is, and you guys could probably answer this better than I can, is the box set a separate board game like a lot of their other box sets have been recently, but then there's also the models which you can use in normal 40k, or is it just like Dark Vengeance where it's like a new starter where you can just be like, hey, you got these guys and there's some, one of those little rule books and all that kind of stuff in there? Or is it like actually like a board game like the Tyranid one was with whatever the heck, I even forget what wasn't that? That was a Death Watch one too, wasn't it? Wasn't that Death Watch and Tyranid Cultists or whatever, right? Wasn't that Gene Stealer Cults? Let's see here. Has anyone got any answers on that? Your neighbors from the 10,000 Lakes say hello. Hello to Minnesota, South Korea. So it's like, according to Stromrager, it's like Dark Vengeance. So it's basically like a starter. It has the mini rule book, and it's just got 2 forces in it. It's not a board game, but yeah, okay. So that's interesting. I don't know. Are Harlequins a good starter like force? Like if you and your friend were just thinking about getting into 40k, Are Harlequins a good starter for that? On the other hand, are Deathwatch a good starter? I mean, I would think that the Deathwatch guys would be a little bit more elite, and Harlequins, I think, are kind of elite, so that's interesting. So, yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, I would... yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, when I heard about it, that's what I was so surprised by, too, because, like I said, that one... The other Deathwatch, like board gamey one, came with the models that were Deathwatch themed, and people were buying them because they wanted Deathwatch. I don't know if these new ones are the same models from that board game. Does anybody else know about that? Yeah, Deathwatch and Genestealer cults were in the Operation Overwatch or whatever it was called. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. So it's like a 40k start collecting box. Is it a good value, like a lot of the other start collecting boxes? Because those are all really good values. Yeah, that's interesting. I know that they've also come up with the Deathwatch Codex, too. I read about that a little bit. So that's interesting. I don't... Have they ever had a Deathwatch Codex before? I don't think so. I mean, I've always heard about the Deathwatch. It's special, kind of elite, best of the best guys, picked from all the different chapters who've all been brought together predominantly to fight Xenos, if I remember correctly. And so it's a cool concept, and I'm sure there have been books about it, Black Library and things like that, but I just don't know if there's ever been a codex about it before. So, but yeah, that's interesting. Armor Freak says they'll probably be a lot like Grey Knights. Well, that kind of makes sense, because those guys are supposed to be like the 1 in a million of the 1 in a million kind of type guys. So yeah, that's interesting. Speaking of terrain, backers are starting to receive their battle systems post-apocalyptic pledges. Did you back it? I'm not sure. Well, I know I didn't. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what battle systems. Is that the stuff from Mantic? Are those battle systems? I thought those were called battle zones. But yeah, I haven't really heard about it like that. Jeffrey says, have you had any first-hand experience with Conflict 47? I just received the German starter army box, and I must say I'm very impressed with the quality and the quantity. I haven't, but I really want to. I'm very interested in Conflict 47. I've contacted, actually, Warlord, and I'm talking to them because I'd like them to maybe send me a review copy of something, and I'd like to talk about it, because it's very much up my alley. Any kind of weird World War II. That's the stuff that I kind of dig. So the concept of, like, yeah, there's normal guys with Thompsons and, carbines and whatnot, but then there's also walkers and power armor and things like that. I'm very interested in that kind of stuff. So, yeah, cool. Greetings from the land of chocolate and waffles. I'm going to say Belgium, if I had to make a guess. I'm not good at my gastrointestinal geography, but I'm going to say that's probably right. Feels like GW are doing a lot of reboxing of the same models this year, almost like 2 runs and selling them. Well, yeah, I could see that. I mean, you make the models, you might as well try to sell them in a couple of different formats. Some people probably were like, I don't really care much about the board game for Deathwatch, but I would like Deathwatch, and maybe they know some guy who wants Harlequins. I don't know. That does seem... you guys know I'm not a big Eldar fan, and the Harlequins even less so, just because basically now they're elf clowns, which really, that's not good, Eek. They say that set is over $400 in models. Well, that's a pretty good value then, if that's the case. Yeah, comes with new unit sprues. All right. I want to get back into Eldar, but have zero interest in Harlequins, says Robert. Well, then I wouldn't buy that box. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't come out with a box that's got, like, Eldar in it. Because, like, Dark Vengeance was Dark Angels and Chaos. And I know they've had some other, like, starter-type boxes. There was one, I think, with maybe Blood Angels or something. I don't know. But I don't know that they've had one with just straight, plain, normal, vanilla Eldar, if you will. Let's see here. Deathwatch kill teams had metal bits, but they basically turned into Stern Guard. Well, Stern Guard are pretty cool. I did a video that some of you may have seen about Stern Guard. Well, it's about Stern Guard and why the Stern Guard costs so much more than the Imperial Guard Scions and it's a whole thing. But yeah. Let's see here. According to the new release rumors, yeah, the Deathwatch models are going to be in their own standalone kit. Have they released a kit yet for the Genestealer cults? Because it almost seems as if, like, for people who don't want to buy that whole box but really want Genestealer cults, or maybe a couple of boxes of Genestealer cults, it would be smart of them to just release them that way. But I don't know. I have a suspicion that sometimes they're like, well, if we do that, then people won't buy this bigger, more expensive box. So yeah. Any thoughts and hopes on the return of GW Specialist games? Blood Bowl, Necromunda, Mordheim had some nice models. Well, I know that Blood Bowl is coming out first. Seen pictures, we've all probably, if you've been looking online, seen pictures from the last Warhammer World or Warhammer Games Day or whatever they call it now over in England. They had a ton of imagery, which is, again, for those of you who've been paying attention over the last 10 years, is amazing for Games Workshop to show a bunch of stuff more than a week before it's released. I was astounded when they did so, but also, grateful. So it's cool that we know what's kind of coming, and that's cool. But they didn't really talk much about Mordheim, Necromunda, and so on going forward. I think they talked a bit about Epic, maybe, but I never really played Epic, so I don't really have any kind of dog in that fight. But I'm interested. I don't know. Maybe Necromunda I'd be interested in. I don't know. I never really got the hang of Blood Bowl. And for Mordheim, I'd honestly rather play Frostgrave, but Necromunda would be kind of cool. So, Captain Chunks is a 40k chat. Is Adam getting back into the game? No, I am not. But I did want to talk about some of the old painted models. Not that old, but some of the painted models I've done for 40k in the past today. And some people asked about 40k, so I'm talking about it. Would I get back into 40k? There's a potential, like, if they did the kind of Age of Sigmar thing, and I'm not saying like the complete, here's a 4-page rules booklet that replaces a book that used to be this thick. Not that necessarily. I don't think that they'll do that for 40k. I think that would cause some serious gnashing of teeth. I think if they at least simplified things and made it so you could play with smaller forces like they did, to some degree with Age of Sigmar, I could see maybe trying it out at least with some of the models I've got for my Chaos Army or whatever, but I don't know that it'll ever go that way. I mean, I don't think they're going to get rid of codices. I don't think that they're going to, make the book free download. I don't think they're going to go to War Scrolls. I don't know what they're going to do, but if they do simplify things enough, I might give it a try with somebody else's rulebook and see, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I've got enough other stuff to play and paint right now. Thank you. So I appreciate that. But yeah. Battle Systems, UK company making modular cardboard terrain. They had a sci-fi project, and last year fantasy, and this year post-apocalyptic. Was it pre-printed? Like colorful, like pre-printed stuff? Is that... Because I saw some stuff on Beasts of War about that a while back, and I thought that was sort of cool, but I've never gotten into any of the Kickstarters. That might be what it was about. Forge World are doing the specialist games. Yeah, from what I understand, that's the case. I'm also old and fairly certain that 3rd through 5th was Orcs. Frostgrave is excellent. I agree, yeah. Let's see here. Hello from Thailand. Big fan. First time I caught your show live. Huge community here, and I keep having to translate what you say in Thai for everyone. They love the vids, so thanks from everyone. Well, I appreciate it. If I could translate myself into Thai, I would do so, but I don't. I honestly... I took a little bit of French in high school. That's about the best I can do. Sometimes I can barely speak English. Depends on the time of the day. And being a bit early, for me at least, on a Sunday, sometimes these shows do not necessarily showcase my best linguistic abilities. But then eventually, sometimes I get into the groove by about 11, and then I'm better off. So, let's see here. Rhino of Pleasure says, I'm not that old, but I do remember 3rd being Dark Eldar. 4th was Nids versus the Ultramarines, Battle of Macragge. I remember that one. And then 5th was Black Reach. Yeah, they had all those different starters, and then now they've got multiple starters. It used to be there was one starter per edition, it seems, and now they've just decided, well, let's make tons of starters, which I get. Again, it seems as if finally somebody there at Games Workshop has realized we need to get new blood into the game because we're annoying the people who've been playing for years, and they're leaving, and it's difficult to get new people to play when the old people are annoyed. And yeah, so that's what they're doing. Start collecting boxes are a definite indicator of that. Age of Sigmar in general is a definite indicator of that. That's really the thing that they're doing, you know. So, but anyway, let's see here. I just picked up the Necromunda box set, the original from '95. I probably about, oh gosh, 6, 7, 8 years ago. It was before we bought this house. I was at a gaming convention in Wisconsin, kind of eastern Wisconsin, and I came across a copy of Necromunda from 1995, still in the original shrink wrap. It was an auction. There was like a game auction. People could bring games and sell them there at the auction and whatever. And it wasn't like a raise your hand going, I'll bid 20, I'll bid 30. It was just like you write down your bid on a thing, and then, you know. So the original, like the starting bid was like $60. It was still in the original shrink wrap. So I was like, and I think it was, no, I take that back. I think the original bid was $50 and the buy it now price was $60. And I was like, and I just bought it. So I bought it, and this was in like February, and I sat on it for about, I don't remember, probably till right around Gen Con time, so August. And I think right after I got back from Gen Con, I put it up on eBay because I had been hemming and hawing. I had this brand new in the shrink version of Necromunda, and I was like, do I crack it open and play it, or do I sell it, go back and forth? Like I said, I paid $60 for it. There was still the original sticker from the store on it that said $69.95 or whatever. I threw it up on eBay after I got back from Gen Con and ended up selling it for just shy of $250 with shipping. So, yeah, that for me is one of my best eBays ever, I think. But yeah, I was still just like, I was on the fence for a good, at least 6 months, trying to decide which way I was going to go with. So, yeah. Captain Chunk says, what company sells Frostgrave minis? Osprey is well, no. There's another company, Northern Military. If you go onto Osprey's website, they will link to, I think, the place where you can buy minis. There are metal minis for the Wizards and the Apprentices, but now they've also released at least 2, if not at this point 3 different plastic kits. I know there's Soldiers and Cultists because I bought both of them at Adepticon, and they're super cheap. They're like 20 models for $31, which is spectacular, and there's tons of parts and stuff and you can build them however you want. And I think they've also now released kobolds or hobgoblins or some sort of creatures that you can now add, like as basically creatures running around in Frostgrave, the city or whatever. So yeah, but you can use any kind of models, exactly, Mike Grimshaw. You can use any kind of 28 millimeter fantasy minis for Frostgrave, and I've done a bunch of those. If you go back last 2 weeks ago, I did a thing about my Frostgrave warbands. They're not painted yet, but they're built, and so I kind of showed them off so you could see some of the different parts I used from Reaper Bones and from GW and all over the place. So let's see here. What else have we got? North Star military figures. See, I was nearly almost close. When crossing into Wisconsin, do I stop for the cheese curds or go straight to the Ren Fair? I'm assuming you're coming from the south, because if you're crossing just the border, you're going to the Bristol Renaissance Fair, which is a lovely Renaissance Fair. We were there a couple years ago. Cheese curds are pretty good, though. Maybe you hit the cheese curds on the way out, but go to the Renaissance Fair first. That's totally up to you. So yeah, let's see here. Gnolls. It's not hobgoblins, it's gnolls. I don't know what a gnoll is. It's like a big dog, I think, or something like that. But yeah. Oh, the Soldiers and Cultists are also compatible. Yeah, that's true. You can swap their like arms and whatnot. It's kind of cool. Let's see here. Mars Cheese Castle, definitely. Matthew is correct. Mars Cheese Castle. If you're heading into Wisconsin down there, that's a good place to go. Let's see here. What do I think of the General's Handbook? Well, technically, that was 2 weeks ago's show. I'm still a big fan, though. And I'm going to be I was actually just talking to my friend Kevin yesterday. We're going to plan for this week or maybe this upcoming weekend, depending on how our schedules work. We want to try out a points game, because I'm not into points, like, from a concept, but it's not like, I don't want to be one of those guys who's like, oh, I don't like broccoli. Oh, really? Did you try it? No, I don't. I never tried broccoli. You know what I mean? I want to be like, if I'm going to say I don't like it, I want to find out why. But if I try it and I'm like, actually, it's not that bad, then I want to be able to know that. So we're going to play a points game, like maybe 1,000 points, maybe 1,500, sometime either this week or, like I said, this next weekend. So that'll be coming, and I'll probably tell you guys about it in the next live show at some point. So yeah. Let's see here. Okay, looks like there's a lot of conversation going on here. That's fun. Let's see here. A gnoll is basically a hyena on meth. So yeah, kind of like a dog, but like a hyena on meth. Okay, I get it. That's good. Let's see here. Let me see. Do a points game bat rep. Well, I could maybe, yeah, not a full-blown bat rep. I'm not there yet. I know that people keep asking for it, but I'm not completely there yet as far as that's concerned. Like, just technological stuff and format, frankly. I've mentioned this, I don't know if I've mentioned this on this show before, or I mentioned it someplace or whatever, but I think my main problem with battle reports right now, and not other people's battle reports predominantly, but the concept of me doing battle reports, is that I'm not a great player, so the people who do battle reports really well, and have a big following out there doing them, are people who are tournament players. They're strategists, and that's their thing. So they're showing other people who want to learn tactics and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is why I did this, and this is that. I'm not that good by any stretch of the imagination, nor am I even interested too much in that. I'm not a tournament player or any kind of stuff like that. So I think my battle reports would have to be more to kind of show how the game works, maybe, and to maybe have some fun, to show off some personality. So I've got to find the right people and this and that and the other thing, and also try to find the actual format. I don't want it to take 2 hours, but I also don't generally want to do one of those things like, okay, well, this is what happened last turn, and then just, I don't know, we'll see. But no, I'm still working on that, frankly, slowly, but I'm still working on it. Let's see here. So let's see here. What are your thoughts on Fantasy Flight's new miniature game, Rune Wars? I watched a sort of not exactly a battle report, but I watched kind of a demo of it at Gen Con. Now, I was not at Gen Con, but Dawn and Gianna from Beasts of War, their American correspondents, they were at Gen Con. So they published a video last week, I think, about Rune Wars. So it was basically a guy from Fantasy Flight just showing, I think, multiple people, and they were just filming it. Well, this is how Rune Wars works. I'll tell you a quick little story. A friend of mine at work, who is big into X-Wing and Armada, he first saw the reports of these, and he misread the report, and he's like, oh, this is super cool. It's really interesting. It's this new miniatures game from Fantasy Flight, blah, blah, and it's, all this, and you move the blocks, and they're pre-paints. And I thought, wow, that's kind of crazy, because there's a lot of models in there. I'm really surprised they're doing the pre-paints. Well, when I went back and read the article, he had misread the word unpainted and just read it as painted. And again, being a person who's mainly used to X-Wing and Armada, where everything is already pre-painted, it just makes sense that kind of clicked in his brain. So when I told him, I came back and I was like, no, actually they're unpainted models. You paint them yourselves. He was like, oh, well, I'm not as interested then. Which I understand. If you're not a hobbyist, that's not as interesting. For me, as a hobbyist, looking at the sculpts for Rune Wars remind me of the computer models for World of Warcraft. Like, everything is a little bit like lower poly count, if that's a thing, in a normal actual physical model. And they're also a little cartoonish to me, and so I'm not super interested. Plus, it's a rank and flank style game, from what I can tell. You have these blocks that you move your guys in. You don't move them separately like you do in 40K or like in Age of Sigmar. You move them like you used to in 8th edition and previous Warhammer Fantasy, which I was never particularly interested into. So, they've got a lot of little widgets and little dials and little turning radius templates, kind of like you do in X-Wing and stuff like that. I don't know that I'll be playing it, but we'll see. Maybe all of a sudden it takes off huge and everybody starts playing it, and maybe the rules, I didn't get a great sense of the rules. I got an okay sense of the rules from watching that video, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's interesting that Fantasy Flight is getting into unpainted miniatures. I'm assuming that they must have had a deal for a while, because you know how Fantasy Flight was doing a lot of the role-playing games for 40K? I get the feeling that they had a deal where they weren't going to do unpainted miniatures, and Games Workshop wasn't going to do RPGs or something. Like there was some sort of deal that was in that sort of licensing thing that they were doing, and I get the feeling that that's passed. So it'll be interesting, yeah. Let's see here. Don't let not being a pro hold you up on bat reps. Twisted Bishop says. Yeah, I'm just still kind of kicking around on that, but yeah. Daniel says, how about an update on the TM, the pins, the swag? The pins are over there in a box, and they're ready to go, but they're not in the store yet because I've got other stuff that I'm still waiting on. Probably towards the end of August, I should hopefully get the dice. Like, they've been ordered, but it takes up to 8 weeks. And actually, just this morning, I looked on PayPal to see when the hell did I pay for those dice, because I'm like, they should be here soon. Well, as it turns out, I paid for them on June 24th, so July 24th, August 24th, roughly, would be about 8 weeks. So in a couple more weeks, hopefully, those dice will roll in. And then I've got dice bags, which I got to finish the design on and get them made. I'm hoping sometime in September, I will then open up the store, the online store, and have at least those 3 products, possibly a third product, or 4th product. But that's kind of where that's at. So yeah. Let's see here. What else have we got? Rune Wars models going to be made from the same plastic as Descent models. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I mean, I know, you know, I understand what you're saying, but I've never used Descent, so I don't know what is that. Is it like real bendy, kind of like Reaper Bones? Is that the type of plastic? It's not a hard plastic like GW stuff. It'll be interesting. I could understand it being slightly more bendy, because I think that's cheaper plastic, and I don't feel like they're... I think that the thing about Rune Wars is it's obviously aiming, again, towards getting people into... You're just moving them along another step. Okay, you started playing X-Wing because you could just take it out of the box and play. Now, we're going to give you a new game, which technically you can take out of the box and play, but if you want to paint them, you can take it to the next level. So, you know, maybe that's what they're aiming for. I think Fantasy Flight Games is trying to cash in on Warhammer Fantasy players hating on Age of Sigmar. I did think that a little bit myself, since they put them on trays and did the rank and flank thing. I thought, I think that they're maybe looking at maybe a hole in the market. The thing is that from what I could tell, the gameplay itself was a bit more simplified, and there was a lot of little widgets and gadgets and little dials and the measuring templates and all that stuff, which I would think that fantasy players wouldn't be super into. So yeah, I don't know, it's hard to say. Met Jess Goodwin in London yesterday. Got him to draw Eldar runes on my wallet. Definitely makes up for missing Gen Con this year. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Was Jess Goodwin, was he at Adepticon? Is there somebody that was at Adepticon this year who was a GW artist, and I can't think of who it was, but there was somebody that was at Adepticon this year. If any of you guys know, put it in the comment thingies there. Some people hate Age of Sigmar, but many people like the game. Yeah, I agree. You know, I think the people who are angriest about Age of Sigmar, obviously, as we've talked about in the past, are the people who had been playing fantasy for years and were very, invested both in time and money in that game. And when things switched over so abruptly, which again I think that Games Workshop could have probably tried to do a little bit better, it would have been nice. So yeah, it would have been nice if they would have made that change a little bit easier. Let's see here. Krish asks, what wargames do you play? Tabletop Minions? Let's see here. Age of Sigmar. I like to play also games like Frostgrave, Wreck Age. What else? What's the other one? The other post-apocalyptic one. This is not a test. Frostgrave. X-Wing. I play X-Wing with some friends too. I don't play it like competitively. There's a lot of tournaments around here and things like that I can get into, but I don't play it competitively, but I enjoy that. So yeah. I used to play Dust Warfare. I play Flames of War, which is World War II. It was my first historical game, technically. So yeah, there's a bunch of different ones. Imperial Assault has unpainted minis as well. That's a good point. That is true, yeah. Daniel says, need a Tabletop Minions painting/water/coffee mug. Yeah, I've kicked around that idea. That might be a thing where I could do like some sort of online service where they'd be kind of print on demand. You know, I'll look into that though. I mean, I don't, because everything else I generally get manufactured in some fashion and then shipped to me, and then I ship them to you because, like the T-shirt thing, I could sell those T-shirts that I did back in spring for $15 because I got them made locally. Whereas if you go through an online service, yeah, they can print them in full color and they're digital, and I don't have to worry about the shipping and all that stuff. But try and get one for under $25. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I think it's easier to kind of pass the savings on to the rest of you if I do it that way. Now mugs, because of the shipping and all that stuff, I'll have to look into prices. Like maybe I could get mugs made really super cheap, but I don't know anybody around here who prints mugs. Like I said, I know people who print T-shirts. I know people who do the buttons and that kind of stuff. I got the buttons done locally. A friend of mine works for a company that just puts logos on stuff, like, you know, those like promotional products. So she was able to get those for me. The T-shirts I got printed by my friend who owns a T-shirt company here in town, where that's what they do is, you know, silk screening and T-shirt manufacturing. The dice, that's Chessex, because who else does that custom dice stuff, and not too many people. So that kind of thing. But again, you know, I didn't want to do the T-shirts like through Cafe Press or through, you know, Redbubble or Zazzle, because like I said, those are very likely to cost at least $25 for a single shirt. So, and that's just in America. Like if it has to still be shipped overseas, it's still crazy expensive because our post office has decided to go nuts with overseas shipping lately. So that's fun. Let's see here. Torch says, yeah, it's a little bendy. I think that's we're talking about the Descent plastic and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would expect that to be the case. Just joined, assuming people have already talked about the Deathwatch stuff. Yep, there has been some good Deathwatch commentary going on. Melbourne, neat. Guerrilla Miniatures Games does some great Frostgrave battle reports. Yes, Ash does very good work. He does, I mean, that's really like, that's his big thing, is basically just battle reports. Like, I mean, he does some other stuff too. He talks about things he's painting in the studio, and he talks about some products, but it's majority of what Ash and those guys are doing is battle reports, which is cool. Also check out Tabletop Battle for bolt action bat reps. They're going through all of World War II in chronological order. Oh, that's an interesting concept. That's cool. Fantasy Flight Games is aimed at board gamers. Assuming that they are going to go after GW is quite far-fetched. Different clientele. I don't think they're going to go after GW, but I think they're looking at trying to pick up some of what GW has left behind. I think that's partially why they started to do, you know, put Rune Wars in these blocks, you know, in that kind of flank, you know, rank and flank kind of style. I get the feeling that's maybe the case. Did you see Blood and Plunder? I've heard of it as a game, but I've never played it, so I don't really know much about it. And did you see Blood and Plunder at Gen Con? Again, I didn't go to Gen Con, so I didn't see stuff. The only stuff that I've seen from Gen Con has been stuff that I've, you know, seen on YouTube and things like that, so yeah. Armor Freak says, I'm sad Dust never took off. Yeah, same here, man. I mean, it sort of did for a while. I never liked Dust Tactics, like the board game kind of style. Never was a big fan. But when Dust Warfare came out, I was ecstatic because it was a great system and I really liked it. And then it just sort of crashed and burned. And now there's like Battlefront bought it, and Battlefront's trying to do their own version, which is meh. And then the guy who actually came up and started Dust, Paulo Parente, which I'm sure I mispronounced, he's kind of doing his own thing, which I've read the rules because you could download them for free online as a PDF, and I was like, eh. So I'm not sure, yeah. Matthew is asking, don't you want your home full of coffee mugs? I don't think that either. To be fair, our home is already kind of full of coffee mugs, but they're all different. But I don't know if we want boxes and boxes and boxes of Tabletop Minions. I'm getting a definite head shake from over there, so probably not. No. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I can figure out some sort of fulfillment or something, yeah. Let's see here. Tyler says, hey, Adam, you're awesome. Well, thank you. I love these chats. So Vince's topic of the week is attracting new blood. What could companies and community do better to attract new blood? Yeah, I saw a little bit about that I didn't watch the video yet on Vince's channel, but I did see the subject come by in my YouTube feed about attracting new blood. I think that some of what Games Workshop has been doing with Age of Sigmar and the start collecting boxes is definitely designed to attract new blood. I know for 40K they've made these new sets that are very snapped together that they're going to try to get into places like Target and hobby shops that are not gaming related and stuff like that, like model shops and things. They're trying to get them into there. I think that can help to attract new blood. I think that what we can do, I think X-Wing is a big one to attract new blood too. I mean, I know at our local shop there's a bunch of longtime Magic players who still play Magic, certainly, but they also are now playing X-Wing, so that's really cool. I think that what we can do as a community to attract new blood is to become, to some degree, game advocates. Like, say, hey, I have this game, and it's cool, and it's simple. Age of Sigmar, Song of Blades and Heroes, that's another game that I like to play, which I forgot to mention before. And you play it with people, you teach people at conventions. I mean, I go to conventions, local conventions, quite frequently, and I will bring along Song of Blades and Heroes, and I will teach people who are just walking around and be like, hey, let's, and that works out well. But another thing that will also help us a lot in bringing people to the hobby is being inclusive. You will see this at shops all the time. There will be people who are just like, well, you're not a real gamer because you don't play the game that I've been playing for 20 years or whatever, or you're not a real gamer because whatever. Being inclusive is always better, and that's what helps to also grow the player pool and the amount of people in the hobby, which we need. So, let's see here. Have you seen an orc banner with your logo on a Facebook group? No, I have to go back and look. I haven't seen the orc banner with my logo on it in the Facebook group. I'll have to go back and check that out. I've missed it as it's gone by in my feed because I keep an eye on that pretty much every day. So yeah, that's interesting. For the bat rep, you could always go more narrative, gloss over the technical dice roll aspect, and make it a story. Yeah, that's a potential as well. I've seen some people do a little bit of that, and that's kind of interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Jason says, I was at Gen Con, Dust was there, and it appears that they have found a way to move on independently from Battlefront. And yes, the best of my knowledge, you pronounced Parente correctly. Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, like I said, they're two separate things now. There's like, is it called just Dust 47 maybe? Or Dust 1947? And then there's also like Dust Battlefields, I think, which is actually owned by Battlefront now. So they're two separate doohickeys. Let's see here. What else have we got to say? I think Privateer Press is pretty good at attracting new blood with their press gangers program. See, yeah, I do, from what I understand, and this is before my time even playing in Games Workshop stuff, but Games Workshop used to have guys called Outriders, I believe, and their job was basically like a press ganger. They were demo teams and things like that. And from what I understand, they haven't done that in years and years and years. So I think that would be maybe another smart thing for them to look into doing, but I know that it is sometimes difficult to wrangle those people. I was an emissary, which was for Golem Arcana, so I was going and doing demos at stores a little bit here and there. And I know that Weird Games, the guys who do Malifaux, they have henchmen, I believe. That's their kind of their demo team program. A demo team program is a big deal, and I think it helps a lot. And I think that that's something that Games Workshop should look back into too, as well. So yeah. Let's see here. Teardome says, the exciting part of Rune Wars to me is Fantasy Flight experience with X-Wing. In X-Wing, they created a beautifully complex system without being complicated. If they can do that in Rune Wars, I'm in. That's very true. X-Wing is easy to teach, but difficult to master. So I do like that about X-Wing. It's one of the things I like best about it, actually. But, we'll see how it goes there, yeah. I have seen Wings of Glory bring in new blood. Wings of Glory, like, back when it was called Wings of War, and it was all World War I planes mostly, I used to play that, and this is a long time before even X-Wing. And I liked that. That was cool. So, yeah, I think it's interesting to... Yeah, I don't know. Again, those planes were so well painted. I've still got, I don't know, probably 8 those little World War I planes, and they were so well painted that even if you didn't play with them, they were just really cool to sit on your desk or something, So actually, I should take those to my new office. That's what I should do. Set them up on my desk. That'd be a good idea. Let's see here. Hi from the Netherlands, I'm going to say, Zutphen. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Being inclusive is super important. Oh, hey Jasper, how you doing? Yeah, no, I agree. I think that there is sometimes a definite lack of inclusivity. if that's a word, in wargaming. And I think that we all need to kind of work on that somewhat, because that will help us to get more people in the hobby, which is what we want. We want more people to play with. We want, if there's more people in the hobby, more businesses come in, and try to sell stuff to us and things like that. So yeah. Let's see here. Being inclusive. You're so right. I used to run demos for BattleTech, and I ran into that stuff all the time. Nothing saps the will to game like being insulted for not being a real gamer. Yeah, a lot of people get to hear that a lot, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I don't see why. Like, what's the? I don't understand why you would even go down that road. Just like, if people are interested, then teach them. That's how it works. You know what I mean? Yeah. Rhino of Pleasure says, yeah, I remember those Outriders. Then I didn't make it up, which I appreciate. I knew that they used to have a program like it, a demo team, and I thought the name was Outriders. To be perfectly honest, I don't know where the word Outriders would come in for GW. Were there Outriders in the Imperial Guard? I don't know where that term would have come from. Any tips for 1,000-point Stormcast? No. I own some Stormcast models, but I haven't built them yet, and I have not really looked at their rules much at all. So, and again, I'm not great with points, so I'm probably not your best bet for strategy and list building advice. I watched a video on YouTube at Gen Con for Doom. Seemed interesting. I didn't watch a video, but I saw some like press release type of article things about Doom, so that's cool. I think it's interesting that they're going down that road, getting into some more licensing stuff. That's kind of interesting. Let's see. I was closing in on being an Outrider when they sent a letter saying the program was not going forward. Oh, that's a bummer. Will you do any more top 10 picks for the Paint Showcase Club videos? I am behind on that. And it's technically not top 10 picks. It's just 10 picks. Just stuff that strikes me, and I think that other people might like to see who maybe weren't, looking at the group. And I am behind on that. So I was hoping to do it last week, and then I didn't. So, yeah. Have you ever played BattleTech? Yeah, that was honestly one of the first games that I originally played that were tabletop war games back in 6th, 7th grade, something like that. I had just gotten into D&D and stuff like that. And then a kid that, his mom and my mom were friends, and he was playing BattleTech, and he taught me how to play BattleTech, and we would be filling in all the tiny little circles, I've taken 6 points of damage on the left leg and that kind of stuff. And I played that for a while. I played that into college on and off, and then I didn't play it much anymore. And then 2 years ago at Gen Con, I'd heard, because a new company owns it and all that kind of stuff, so they were having demos, and I'm like, oh, I want to see. I've heard the rules have been streamlined. So I sit down at one of the demo tables, and another guy sits across from me, and he's roughly about my age, and we get to kind of talking, and it turns out we've both played years and years ago but haven't played for years, and we were both there to check out, hey, what are the streamlining things like that? How's it? So the guy, there's a whole bunch of us, and we're all just playing one-on-one against each other. So this guy's going through and telling everybody the rules and all this stuff, and it just starts to click, and then the guy that I'm playing against, he and I just start kind of going ahead because we've played it, years ago, but it's coming back to us, and we're playing it, and we're just kind of having this conversation. We're like, I don't know what they've streamlined. I don't know where, you know what I mean? I don't see the streamline in it. It seems a lot like the old game. There's a lot of bookkeeping in BattleTech, which is the thing that partially, I don't know. That's one of the things that kind of kept me away from it. Years ago, I was at Gen Con, and I was running some demos of some games at Gen Con. And so my friend Peter and I came, and we sat down to set up our game in the room we were supposed to be in, and there was a guy sitting at our table, and BattleTech was happening right next to it. And he was like, are you guys going to be playing a game here? And we're like, yeah, we're going to be doing a demo. And he's like, I just need to do a little bit of paperwork. I'm being attacked, and I need to it'd be just a couple of minutes. And we're like, yeah, that's cool. We'll set up over on this end of the table. It's fine. And he was in an Atlas or some other really big, huge mech, and nearly everybody else was shooting at him. It took 10 minutes. It was like a line of people, like a queue of people, and this guy would come over, he'd have his paperwork, and they would roll a bunch of dice back and forth, and then there was a lot of little dots being filled in circles. Well, you took this many damage, and this happened. And then the next guy, and the next guy, and the next guy. And, yeah, so for me, at least, that's kind of where I'm like, yeah, that seems like a lot of, I don't know. I kind of wish the models were a little cooler too. I don't know, maybe bigger. That might be kind of neat because you could get a little bit more detail and like decals on them and do more battle damage. They're so small that to me, I don't know, it's just a thing. But I know a lot of people do dig it, and I'm glad that it's back. Like, because it was weird for a while. Well, first of all, it was a clicks game for a while, and then and now it's back. Catalyst Game Labs, I think they're doing it. And it's classic BattleTech, and I'm glad to see that it's back because there are a lot of people out there who still love it, and so it's cool that they're able to keep it up. So that's neat. Let's see here. All kinds of things going on in there. People talking about BattleTech and overheating. Yeah, that was a big deal in BattleTech. Your mechs could overheat if you used too much, let's say, laser fire, or a lot of different things could happen. And as you would overheat, your mech would shut down. So you had to constantly kind of mitigate your heat. And you're like, well, I want to shoot all my weapons this turn, but if I do that, my mech will shut down because I will have overheated the engines or whatever. So you had to constantly keep track of your heat and stuff like that. But if you stood in water, if you stood in like a lake, then you would not heat up as much because your heat sinks, the things that give off the heat to dissipate it, would be in water, and they would be able to evidently dissipate more heat. So yeah, I mean, I have a lot of Simon, you're right, Locust Swarm custom mechs. I miss that game. I have fondness for it because it was one of my earliest war games. I really do. I don't know that, like, if I wasn't playing much in the way of war games these days, I might look into it, but I got other stuff to play right now. So, and again, like I said, the models, I wish they were bigger. I just would like to paint them a little bit more, But yeah. There are two versions of BattleTech, Classic and Alpha Strike. Alpha Strike is the streamlined version that allows for playing larger games. We must have been playing Classic then, and that must have been, like, Classic must have not been streamlined much at all. And Alpha Strike makes more sense, I guess, if it is like almost like an apocalypse style game, like a bunch of big, that makes a little bit more sense. So yeah. Let's see here. Just downloaded the rule set for Dust 1947. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, I downloaded that too, and I started reading it, but I was such a big fan of Dust Warfare that it's just not quite. It's just, I don't know. Let's see here. Clicks BattleTech is heresy. Because I was a fan of the original BattleTech when the Clicks MechWarrior or whatever it was called at the time, Dark Age MechWar or MechWar Dark Age, when it first came out, I got into it for a while because I was like, oh, cool, all kinds of. But there were so many, like, there weren't that many mechs, and there were a lot of like tanks and troop transports and other little junk, and it was a Clicks game, which at the time, like, I had been playing Mage Knight, which was their first one, and that was sort of fun, but I got real tired of the constant like chasing figures in those boxes because you didn't know what you were going to get. And then when MechWar came out, I'm like, oh, I really like MechWar. That's way better. So then I started buying that stuff, and then I was like, again, it was like I'm just like looking for these like fancy and I just didn't like that whole business model, so I stopped playing eventually. Actually, I've still got a box of them in the basement that I keep thinking about just like breaking up with like a jigsaw or something like that to use as like making little terrain scatter pieces of like damaged like robots, because the scale is wrong, obviously, but if you just used them as robots in 28mm, they would just look like big robots or warbots, but they wouldn't look like full-blown mechs, so that's one of the ideas. Let's see here. Gary says, the guy asking about 1,000 points for Stormcast, Lord Celestin on Dracoth, Lord Relictor, 5 Judicators, 10 Liberators, 3 Prosecutors with Hammers, 5 Retributors is 980 points, and it's what I use at the present. Well, there you go. See, ask and ye shall receive. I prefer Stormcast Eternals all because they remind me of the Angels from Diablo 3. Yeah, especially the ones with the wings. They do. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's kind of cool. Let's see here. What else do we got? Other questions. Alpha Strike is for the quick game, folks. Classic is for longer and more crunchy type play. Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you can still do both. That's really cool. I'm actually very interested. One of the things that I did see come out of Gen Con, watching video footage and things like that, is the new PC game for BattleTech. So they've been making PC games for BattleTech for years and years and years, and the very earliest ones in the early 90s were like basically like we're going to take the tabletop experience and put it on the video game. Well, then everyone's like, well, why don't you just make it so I'm in the mech? And then there's like a cockpit. I get to drive around. And so that's cool. But then all the games after that were all basically real time. I'm in a cockpit, driving around, shooting missiles and lasers and stuff like that. And for some reason, those never completely stuck with me. I mean, for a while, they were really cool, and I was really into them. And then after a while, I just kind of was like, I would almost like to go back to the tabletop kind of thing. So the guys who did Golem Arcana is a company called Harebrained Schemes, and Harebrained Schemes is run by Jordan Weissman, who basically kind of invented BattleTech, basically. Like, he started FASA, which was BattleTech back in the day, and he's been in a couple different companies, and Harebrained Schemes is his new company. They're the guys who did Golem Arcana, and they did a Kickstarter last Gen Con, or right a little bit after last Gen Con, for a new PC game, BattleTech. And it's turn-based and not top-down. It's like three-dimensional, but you're not in a mech. You're commanding multiple mechs, and it's all turn-based, which is cool. And so, but they didn't have any footage to show when they did the Kickstarter, but it still made like tons and tons of money. Well, now they've actually got footage to show off, like pre-alpha, and they showed off some of it. So if you go back and look at the Harebrained Schemes YouTube channel, you can start to see some of that. And I didn't get on the Kickstarter, but now I'm like really interested in and I'm not a big PC gamer. I'm more of a console guy over here in the den. But just watching some of that footage, I was like, oh, that's really kind of cool, because it reminds me, if anybody here has played Dawn of War 2, it reminds me a little bit of that, in that like you click on the guy and then you can like move the cursor and you can see like where they can move to, and then you can place them and then set their like their field of view, or like they're looking this way or looking that way, and it's kind of turn-based. So that's kind of cool. I'm interested in that. I have no idea when it's coming out. Probably, I don't know, 2018 or something like that. But it's nice to finally see some actual footage, because for the longest time they were just like, oh, we're going to make a game, it's going to be awesome. And there was nothing other than some concept art to show, and now they've actually got some footage to show, which is cool. I like those guys. I like the stuff they put out generally, so I'm glad to see that they're getting to that point. Tyler says, we share an interest in marketing. What things would you love to see GW try marketing-wise? Gosh, that's a good question, because they've actually picked up the pace, you know what I mean? They've finally gotten back into social media like a actual company from the 21st century. They've done a couple other little things here and there. I think that honestly what they need to do is they need to start... I think they could take a couple of pages out of Steve Jackson Games' book, and they could start advertising on the back of comic books. It might be a more difficult sell, because getting a comic book fan to buy a copy of Munchkin is easier than getting a comic book fan to buy a copy of Dark Vengeance or something like that. But some things like that might not be a bad idea, you know? I'd like to see them get a little bit more... Like right now they're basically using their YouTube channel as just a place to go to like, to do like, not leaks, but like teasers of like, oh, this is coming out next week. And everyone's like, yeah, we know. We've been talking about it on the internet for a month now. But I'd like to see them start doing more stuff on their YouTube channel that's not just a painting tutorial. You know what I mean? I think that would be good. So, yeah. Seems like there was a mech simulator in Atlanta. Yeah, there was a mech simulator in Chicago for a while too, and they bring them every year to Gen Con now. And those pods are getting a little bit older, but they're still fun. There's still a lot of fun to sit in. Those are cool. So yeah. Gareth says, I would love for GW to rewrite the rules for 40K. Too much to remember. AOS is now easy to set up and play right out of the box. Well, it's true. Like I said, I don't think they're going to go back to that. I don't think they're ever going to go to that level, but I think they may try to simplify things some. Adam, what do you think about the Gen Con announcement, Rune Wars, the miniatures game? Well, Greg, we were just talking about that earlier. It's interesting. I don't know that I'm going to get into it because, like I said, it's rank and flank. You're moving blocks of guys, and I'm not super interested in that. I generally like that. So, yeah, but that's it's interesting. And like I said, there's some stuff on Beasts of War. They have like a 25-minute video or something like that. That's basically like kind of a demo that they filmed actually there at Gen Con. So, yeah. Adam, what is your key to paint a mini? Good priming is really important, and kind of planning things out ahead of time. And also using a wet palette and putting on light layers of paint. I think that's a big deal too. You do not, if you paint straight out of the pot and you put on gloppy layers of paint, it looks like paint on a model. Whereas if you put on thin layers of paint, it looks like the model is colored that way. That's the color it's supposed to be. That's basically the big thing. Let's see here. What do we got here? GW should have demo days at game stores, not GW stores. Well, that would be getting back into them possibly starting up some sort of Outrider program or, you know, street team, demo team again. I agree. That would be smart. But they haven't gone that direction, but that would be a good point. I got back into 40K this year, but I play it with friends, so it's not that bad. Yeah, that's the thing about any game. If you start to play it very competitively on, you know, tournaments and things like that, it can be very difficult to try to, like, if a game is unbalanced or if there's problems, or it just becomes like very stressful because you're trying to win, but there's all these things in the rule set that are stopping you from doing so. But if you're just hanging out in the basement, maybe having some beverages, playing with friends, having a good time, then it's not as big of a deal, unless you and your friends have a very, you know, conflicted relationship, and then maybe sometimes eventually sometimes no one is a friend, someone's not a friend anymore because you blew up their rhino or whatever. But yeah, let's see here. Have you already played No Man's Sky? I remember saying you wanted to play it. I have. I got it on the day it came out on Tuesday for my PS4, and I've been enjoying it. I know that there have been a bunch of people online who hate it for different reasons and whatever, but it is it's pretty much right up my alley. I like just noodling around, kind of hopping a little bit here and there from planet to planet, finding things to mine, going and talking to weird aliens and doing stuff. And you know, like, I don't know. For me, it's, I don't need it to have a ton of story. I don't need it to have a ton of excitement. You know, I don't need to get into constant gun battles or whatever. For me, it's been exploration and I dig it. So it's not for everyone, absolutely. But I've been enjoying it. So I'm trying to not play it too much because I've, you know, got things to paint. So yeah. Hello from London, UK. Whoops, an hour late. We'll go back and watch the first hour. Thanks, Martin. Harebrained Schemes was at Gen Con, and they were offering opportunities to back the new game. Supposedly, you can just go to the website and back it. Well, I'll look into that. That's cool. Because, like I said, now that I've actually seen some footage, I'm like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Again, I don't know. I don't like sitting at my PC to play games these days. I like being on the couch with the big TV. I generally use my PC for making stuff, and I use my video game console for. There's a lot of people out there who, you know, don't like consoles, and that's fine. I do, so yeah. Red sauce or brown sauce? I don't even know what that means. Like, when I think red sauce, I'm thinking, you know, like spaghetti sauce. And when I think brown sauce, I'm thinking like Chinese food brown sauce. So if that's the question, I'm going to go Chinese food probably, but I'm not sure. Wet palette, amen. Yes, Torch, you are right. Wet palette is super important. If any of you out there have not watched my wet palette video, you should go check it out and learn it. Make yourself a wet palette. It's super cheap. You need some baking parchment, which is probably the hardest thing to find, but most grocery stores will usually carry it. You need some paper towel, and you need like a little Tupperware like sandwich box, and you will make a thing that will help your painting get better by a lot. It's astounding. So check that video out when you guys. What are your thoughts on Star Wars Armada? So you play it frequently. Also, I love listening and watching while you paint. Well, that's cool. I played Star Wars Armada like one time. Well, I played a couple of games, but it was all in one day. If there was no X-Wing, I would probably play Armada. But because I've already got a whole bunch of X-Wing stuff, I played Armada, and it's cool, but I kind of like X-Wing a little bit better. I've got a friend who played X-Wing, then started getting into Armada, and now prefers Armada, which is also fine. Everybody's got their own thing. But for me, it was, Armada was, I like a lot of the concepts. I love the fact that the bigger ships, you have to plan further ahead because it's a bigger ship, and it takes longer for it to do stuff, whereas smaller ships can be a little bit more agile as far as their orders and stuff like that. It's neat the way that they modeled that, but for me, I think, I don't know, X-Wing, I just prefer it. But like I said, if there was never any X-Wing and they had started with Armada, I probably would have got into Armada. Honestly, I would love to have seen Star Trek with that Armada thing. The Star Trek game that was based off of the X-Wing rule set didn't seem nearly as successful to me, but if Star Trek ships would have been using the Armada rules, that would have been, I think, a lot cooler. So yeah. Let's see here. You like post-apocalyptic? You should try Eden, a great game. I've heard a bunch. Well, I haven't heard a bunch about it. I've heard the name bandied around, and I need to go take a look at it because I just like knowing about different post-apocalyptic stuff. So I should take a look at it though. Matthew says that Eden doesn't have much support in the U.S. All right, well that's something. I've heard, like I said, I've heard the name and I've never seen it anywhere, so I don't know much about it. Secret Weapon makes a bag of skulls. That's true. They do. I own one. They're nice. They're like little resin ones. I use them in basing and stuff like that quite a bit. In the stuff that I'm about to show you, there might be some resin Secret Weapon skulls in there. I'll point them out when we come across them. Let's see here. Ketchup versus A1, basically. Oh, well, in that case, I prefer A1. Between Ketchup and A1, oh yeah, A1 is the best. Are you excited for the new Bolt Action starter set? I don't know about the new Bolt Action starter set, but the new Conflict 47 starter set, yes, definitely. I was talking about that a little bit earlier, about how I'm very interested in Conflict 47. Let's see here. You can get the Masterson Stay Wet Handy Palette from your local craft store for less than $10 with a coupon. Justin, that's true. I have seen those, depending if you've got an art supply store in your town, but yeah, I've seen those. They can be really helpful too. The one that I did with the sandwich stuff is like with stuff that you should be able to do around your house, but either one will work. Either way, you want to get yourself a wet palette because they're awesome. Brown sauce is a UK thing. Well, then I've never been to the UK, so I probably have not tried it, but I do like A1. Like on a hamburger? Seriously. Let's see here. I like the dogfight aspect of X-Wing better than Armada. Yeah, I think that's my thing too, partially. I think that I like the concept of... Like, I like the concept of, like, having to kind of control things in Armada and keep your ships, like, energy levels and stuff like that figured out. I like that concept. I don't know if I like the execution necessarily in Armada, but I like the concept. But the movement is very plotting, obviously, as it should be, because they're big capital ships. And for whatever reason, X-Wing, moving those ships around pretty quickly, I dig that, yeah. Now there's a fight about whether Worcestershire is better than ketchup. I don't even know. Okay. Thoughts on Weird's upcoming game, The Other Side, coming to Kickstarter soon, they say. I've not heard of that new game, I don't think. I'll take a look at it. I appreciate the heads up. Let's see here. Any recommendations for high-quality skeleton archer miniatures? Yeah, that's a tough one. For my Death Army, all my skeleton archers are Tomb King's archers. Now, the upside to using Tomb King archers, because I want most of my guys to be Vampire Count style skeletons. That I don't think that there are archers in Vampire Counts. I don't think there ever were. There was only archers and Tomb Kings. The trick is the Tomb King guys, they don't look very Egyptian. Like, if you paint them right and don't use much gold, like their helmets and stuff like that, they don't look like super Egyptian. And if you paint them like iron color, I think you can get away with it. But for me personally, like the best thing I was able to find for archers were Tomb King archers. There's not a lot of other companies out there doing skeleton archers. Like I looked at Mantic because I was like, oh well, of course Mantic, they do pretty decent undead, but their skeleton archers are kind of expensive because I think that the archer part, the arm and the bow and all that stuff, those are metal add-ons to their normal resinish plastic figures. So that was kind of a bummer. So that's what I did. I'm pretty excited for Conflict as well. I already have a bunch of Bolt Action Americans and Dust stuff, so I'm hoping I can merge them. Yeah, I think that there's going to be some of that. You can do some of that to some degree, depending. I mean, maybe not at a tournament if you go into that, but when you play with your friends, definitely, yeah. Greg asks, do you still play Infinity regularly? I've never played Infinity regularly. I've played a couple of demos. It has, as of yet, still not stuck with me. The rule set to me, and I talked a little bit about this in Friday's video, the rule set still is just kind of weird to me. I've got a bunch of friends that are playing it, but it's just not quite, I'm just not quite there yet. Sunday is going to be a day for steak, I think. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Adam, is any army is able to survive and make some damage in AOS? Thinking of getting an all goblins army. I don't know much about orcs and goblins within Ages of Sigmar, so yeah, you might have to... it's a good question. I would take a look into it, but I don't know about the goblins. Like, as an entire goblin army would be a lot of fun, specifically for painting and modeling and all that, but I don't know a ton about what it would be like if you were going to play tournaments and things like that, if they would be, you know, powerful or not. That's a good question. I would take a look at the General's Handbook, obviously, you know, and take a look from there. So yeah. Twisted Bishop says Conflict 47 might be the game that finally gets me into a World War II settings. Nazi werewolves fighting British robots. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a really super smart idea on Warlord's part to try to court that group that's not particularly interested or ready for our historicals and bring them in with that. But then it's the same game system between Bolt Action and Conflict 47, and you can even use your Bolt Action guys if you want to, you know, and that's really brilliant on their part. I'm really glad they did it that way. It's really smart. You could just buy bows and then use vampire count skeletons. Potentially, yeah. You know, I mean, that might work. Let's see here. Do you find yourself overwhelmed by shiny syndrome with regards to Kickstarter board games? No. I'm not a board gamer. I used to be, but I've gotten way, way, way out of board games, so I don't do that anymore. There are other things that sometimes are shiny on Kickstarter that I go with, but not so much board games. Now, that being said, I did actually just yesterday receive a board game that was a Kickstarter that I paid for like a year ago in the mail. But that's rare. The game is called Vast, V-A-S-T, something about the Crystal Caverns, and I thought that my wife would like it, and some of our friends would like it, and it was also, all the artwork was done by a guy who I had paid to draw me something. And I really love his artwork, so that's why I backed the Kickstarter. So I will probably end up playing it at some point. More likely, my wife will play it with friends, because she's more of a board gamer than I am. But I also just wanted to help support because I love the guy's artwork so much. His name is Kyle, and he does amazing stuff. And I was originally going to pay him to do artwork for Tabletop Minions, like up here. Not the logo, but some other stuff that I was going to use like in the intros for the videos, and then I ended up going a different direction. But I still want to get him to paint me, or draw me more stuff. I paid him to draw me a robot, a black and white robot, as I have a little gallery that I'm building eventually down in the basement in the Nerd Bunker that's just going to be black and white drawings of robots. So I've gotten 3 of them now from 3 different artists. And my hope is to go to Chicago Comic-Con or some local Comic-Con and hit up, especially Chicago because it's a bigger one, and hit up like the Artist Alley and get more black and white 8.5 by 11 just pen and ink robot sketches, just because I want to build like a little gallery of robot sketches. That's just what I've been doing lately. Let's see here. Sawyer says, "Hi all, first time catching the stream, new to wargaming, but I'm halfway through a post-apocalypse empire army for Age of Sigmar. Thanks for the vids, Adam." Well, thank you, Sawyer. The thing is that I kind of look as Age of Sigmar as being post-apocalyptic because it's very, you know, it's after the end times. How can you get much more post-apocalyptic than that? So that's one of the reasons I think I also kind of like Age of Sigmar, is because it's like that. Like when you model stuff, like every piece of terrain on the board in Age of Sigmar should be basically busted because everything, you know, the end times have happened. So yeah, it's kind of in it. So making an army like that, a post-apocalyptic empire army, totally makes sense. Good work. Let's see here. Matthew says, yeah, lasers are a must-have for X-Wing. But Matthew plays a lot of X-Wing and runs an X-Wing thing where he lives. I know. So yeah, lasers are really super nice because, like, if you can get those that make the straight line, you know, not just like a point, but the ones that, like, when you shine them down at the table, they make like a straight line level. Those are super great for games like X-Wing and a lot of different games, but specifically for that. Hey, good morning from Alaska, Adam. Just came on and heard you're getting into Conflict 47. I'm pretty interested in it too, but have yet to buy anything yet. I haven't bought anything yet. I've contacted the company and I've had a conversation with them, and I think they might be sending me some stuff, hopefully, and that's cool. But I'm definitely interested in when I get stuff, I'm going to start building, I'm going to start painting, I'm going to start doing a lot of stuff. You'll see it probably on social media and things like that, because I've always been kind of interested in bolt actions. I like 28mm in general anyway, and I've been getting more interested in historicals, but then all of a sudden when there's Nazi zombies and mechs and stuff like that, then I'm like, yep, sign me up. So, yeah. Let's see here. I'm curious if they're going to introduce more armies for Age of Sigmar or just release new models for armies. That's a good question. I have a I don't know if they're going to release any new armies or if they're just going to start making models. That's a good question. It would seem weird that they would get rid of somebody like the Tomb Kings or the, I don't know, like the Bretonnians or Empire or whatever. They would get rid of some of those guys and then come up with completely new armies. I just feel like they're kind of trying to reduce the amount of SKUs, the different, product numbers and things like that. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I would be very surprised if they came up with a new army. They'd be more likely, if anything, to maybe relaunch some of the stuff that they, like, if they maybe come back with Tomb Kings, or if they add new Tomb King stuff that could be added into just the normal death look and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I get the feeling that they were kind of looking at it with Age of Sigmar and were like, do we need vampire counts and Egyptian-based Tomb King undead army? Do we need 2 undead armies, or can we just have 1? And I think that's what they were doing. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I am nearly out of coffee. All right, let's see here. What do you think about the future of wargaming? Is there a theme that will be new, interesting in the next few years? That's a good question, Greg. Honestly, I would still love to see... I know Golem Arcana did not work out well, but I would like to see more games, wargaming games that have some sort of integration with apps. Maybe not to the degree that Golem Arcana did, but something where you can track stuff a lot more on the app. Like you could put your army, like if Age of Sigmar, like there's a lot of stuff going on in the Age of Sigmar app, and you can say, oh, these are all the units I own, but I would love to, now that they've done the thing with the points and all that jazz, I'd love it where you could build a list in the app, and then you could even keep track of maybe wounds, or stuff like that. That could be kind of cool. I think you're going to see some companies that, because nearly everyone is carrying around a smartphone that is barely outside of their arm's reach in most situations, and I think that you're going to see people doing something that's going to be kind of work with that. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. I'm glad Tomb Kings are gone. You never liked them. Well, that's your opinion, Joe. There are other people who are bummed about it, and I know that there was a big, people were buying them on eBay, and then now they're really worth a lot of money on eBay. I was never a big fan. Between the two, I preferred Vampire Counts myself, so that was my kind of thing. So, Adam, takeaways from Gen Con 2016. Well, again, I didn't get to go, sadly, so that was a takeaway. But from the stuff that I read, one thing that's interesting to me about Gen Con 2016 is I read that the attendance was not as big as they thought it was going to be. Since 2010, from like 2010 to 2015, attendance this year at Gen Con, or attendance in Gen Con from 2010 to 2015 doubled in 5 years. They went from about 30-ish thousand to 60,000 in 5 years. This year, that line going up didn't go up as much. It went a little flat, which makes sense to me. I can understand. I mean, like, we hit a point, things can't go up forever. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Now, from what I understand, our moderator, Matt, he was at Gen Con, so he may have more to talk about it in the comments. But yeah, it was... I had some other friends that went as well, and they had a good time, but yeah, it wasn't... There wasn't anything super huge. There weren't any super huge announcements. I mean, the Rune Wars thing from Fantasy Flight was kind of a big deal because people didn't really know about it coming up like that. It was sort of sprung on people, and that's, at least from what I understood, so that was cool. But, yeah, otherwise there wasn't a ton really going on there, so yeah. Quinn Perry says, so War Room. War Room, from what I understand, is for War Machine and Hordes. Something like that. That's just a simple list builder. From what I understand, I haven't used it in a long, long time. I did use it in the beginning of Mark II because I played a little bit of Mark II for a while in War Machine. But I'd like to see more companies doing stuff like that. So yeah, kind of like that. Some people don't like the app, from what I understand from Privateer Press. So like a good one of those would be helpful, I guess. So let's see here. I've been wrong before, but I hope it does. Matt says, I think I'm done with Gen Con for a bit. Too much cosplay, not enough gaming. I got to admit that cosplay does... I have no problem with cosplayers in general. I think that, especially when they do really good work, it's amazing craftsmanship and creativity and all that jazz. I do wish they could figure out a way to try to make it so that cosplayers do not completely clog the aisles You know, because like the cosplayer themselves, they're walking down the aisle having a good time looking at, you know, whatever. But then someone's like, hey, can I get a picture? And then that cosplayer stops dead in the aisle and is like, hey, sure. And then a bunch of like 8 different people hop up to take pictures. And now I'm just trying to get to that booth over there, but I can't get around this throng of people because they've stopped in the middle of an aisle, like in the trade show floor. You know, if you're out someplace else, great. And I'm not saying we need to put them in a completely different building or anything like that. I think the parade, I don't know what they did with the parade this year, but 2 years ago when I was there, the parade went like right through the middle of everything, not into the trade show room, the dealer room, but it went through the middle of like we were trying to get to the trade show room, and we couldn't for more than half an hour because there was the parade. And like if you tried to just cross through the parade, like people would yell, like people with badges. Well, maybe not badges, but like security guard dudes would be like, no, you can't go through there. And I'm like, I don't care about any of this. I just want to get over there. And you're like, nope. So if they could fix that, again, like I said, I have no problem with cosplayers. I'm not interested in it, but you know, they're having a good time, and a lot of the stuff is very creative and well crafted. But I do wish that they would, you know, try to figure out a way to make it so that it doesn't completely grind everything to a halt sometimes. Let's see here. Hi, Adam. Hello from Canada. Hello. Matthew is absolutely right. Adepticon is the mini gaming convention for the Midwest. I've said it, I don't know how many times on the channel before. Adepticon is my favorite gaming convention, and it's just tabletop wargaming. There's a little bit of board gaming that happens there just for people in between games and stuff, but it's predominantly all board gaming. There's almost no cosplay there. Every once in a while, someone dresses up like as a commissar or a Tau or something like that, but for the most part, it's like a couple people. So, yeah, that to me, Adepticon, which I just last week got my hotel rooms taken care of for Adepticon 2017. So super looking forward to it. Josh McCarthy says Adepticon is his favorite convention, and I'm not just saying that because it's an hour away. See, for me, it's like 3 hours away, which is also a benefit. But Gen Con's only about 6.5, so 3 hours is better than 6.5, but still, yeah. Gummy Nerd says, is Adepticon in Wisconsin? No, it's in Illinois. It's just outside of, well, kind of just outside of Chicago. It's in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is west of Chicago. Matthew said he went to Arby's during the cosplay parade. I apologize in general for the fact that you went to Arby's. I mean, that's, I'm not a big Arby's fan. The Solo Wargaming Show says could hardly move in the exhibitor hall. Yeah, just the fact that there's so many people there now is the case. Like 2 years ago when I was there, 2015, like Sunday was the worst because it was family day, which is great. I'm all for getting families in there. But like every family brought like a humongous like baby carriage moving machine. They're like these huge Death Stars that are, you keep all the baby supplies and the baby and all this and all that junk in there. And so you got that and families and all this, and it just became clogged. So yeah, Sunday was really tough last year or 2 years ago. So yeah. Torch says, I agree about the cosplayers. They're cool, but they do stop traffic even in small conventions here in California. Yeah. Let's see here. Yep, Josh is right. It's actually Schaumburg, which is a nice suburb, and right by O'Hare. Yeah, so actually people flying in to go to Adepticon have a really, it's a nice big hub. O'Hare is a huge airport, so you can fly in there easy, and then just boom, and then you're in Schaumburg, so that's really nice. Let's see here. Adam, what's your colors for Tau? When I did my Tau, I used a dark red, automotive primer, like a red oxide, and I sprayed them completely in this dark red. And then I took an orange paint, which was called Go Mango, which I think is actually like a Pontiac or some sort of car color, but it's for modeling. It was made by testers, but it's supposed to match up with like a car color. And I just dusted them from above. If this was the model, I would spray him from above. So they would be mostly red, but with like an orange highlight on top. And then I would go through and do the detailing and stuff like that. And that's basically what I did. And they turned out well. They've showed up in some of my videos in the past. I don't have any currently within arm's reach, which is weird because I'm going to talk about my 40K models, but I didn't bring any of those up from the basement. I just brought my Chaos guys and my Space Marine guys. That was dumb. Anyway, Schaumburg smells like Germans settled here in the beginning. Yeah, no, that's true. Greetings from Germany, Heinrich. Wisconsin's the same way. There's a lot of Germans up here, and there's a lot of Germans in the Illinois area. So yeah, let's see here. All right, so what I'm going to talk about now is I'm going to actually get to the thing and start talking about some models, and I'll show you some stuff. You'll notice I have a nice piece of gray felt here so we don't get the glare from the table anymore. My wife found that for me literally like 5 minutes before the show started, so I appreciate that. All right, I'm going to grab this big, dumb tray full of models. So, a quick piece of background. When I first started into 40K, I started with Tau, because I thought they would be real quick and easy to build and paint, which was true, but then I got bored with them because they're Tau, and you can't, like, I mean, you could. Obviously, you can if you want to. You could customize them like crazy, but I just sort of didn't, and I was like, well, I want something I can customize and build crazy. So then I moved into Chaos, which obviously you can always just cover everything in more spikes and do kind of crazy shenanigans. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to start pulling out of this box if I can. This foam. I'm going to start showing you some guys. And they're going to be small. I will pick them up and show them to you closer, but for right now I'm going to just start setting guys. These are Black Legion Chaos that I painted at this point now, gosh, 5 years ago? Maybe more. Let's see, there's another one over here. And here's one. What's this guy got? He's got a bolter, and this guy's got a bolter. Another bolter. So I did a bunch of Black Legion. That was kind of my thing. I did mainly Black Legion and Nurgle. Those were my two main jams when I was doing Chaos. I also did a bunch of Khorne Berserkers back when they didn't suck. And now they kind of do. So and I'll show you some of those eventually too. I've got a lot more of these guys than I thought I did. Jeez. Nurgle. Here's another one. Okay, so this is about, I think I have more in the basement, but these are all of them that I had in this tray. So these are, like I said, Black Legion. And what I did with most of these guys when I first started is my very first thought was, how do you highlight black? It's not easy. So the trick is that this is how I did it. What I did is I did mostly with airbrush. I've talked a lot about how you should really think about getting an airbrush, and I think it's a good idea. What I did here was I primed them black, airbrush. I built them, textured the bases, then primed them black. And when I primed them black, they were just straight, complete, flat black. Then I custom mixed up my own little bottle of like a very dark gray. Like I wrote on the bottle, it's this many drops of black, a couple of drops of white, a little bit of drops of medium, and I put the recipe right on the bottle so that when I wanted to make more, I would just follow that recipe and dump more in there, shake it up real good, and then I would spray the models from above. So I would have a black, completely black model, and then I would airbrush it from above. So you would be getting a dark gray, but not straight black on the tops of the shoulder pads, tops of the head, top of the backpack, backs of the legs, and stuff like that. And then I would go back, and then I would go back and I would do like the gold bits on the shoulder pad and the silver. Now the thing is that I could do a pretty heavy layer of highlight, because I also thought, well, then I'm going to go back and hit it with black wash, which is, you can kind of see that like in the shoulder pads. You see how like that shoulder pad, like how it's gray in the middle, but then as you get towards the edges by that skull and the gold, it all gets dark again? That's from black wash. You can kind of see it on this one too. Not super in focus. But there we go. Oh, for just a second it was in focus. What if I get closer? What if I do like this? How about this? Ooh. Hey, that actually worked. I was just screwing around, but that actually worked. So yeah, these guys, man, this thing can really focus close. That's cool. These are my general Black Legion. I used a lot of silver and gold. I mean, some people will paint them all just straight gold, like all the stuff is gold. The gun's gold, the shoulder pads are gold, the arrows on top of their head are gold. I generally went with gold on the shoulder pads, but I went with a lot of silver on like the legs and like the arrows on the heads, the globes, the backs. There's some edge highlighting here and there, but I've never gotten into it real big. Like you'll see some kind of down there on the backside, that little flap that goes over his rear. You'll see some on the edges of the backpack. There's a little bit going on there too. Some edge highlighting, mainly in silver to make it look like some of the black is kind of rubbed off. But that's pretty much what I did on most of all of these. So let's see here. What else have we got? Let me see. Well, here's a guy with, first of all, some cat hair stuck to him. And then this is one of my, and the color isn't coming quite as well as I would like. But this is a plasma gun guy. If he wasn't so blown out with the light, maybe you'd see the plasma gun's got definitely like the blue thing going, and he's got a glow on his face, but here it's kind of getting blown out a little bit. But yeah, you know, again, using all the cool shoulder pads. I have this big box full of bits, and so I was going through and working on, you know, I always wanted to have like one shoulder pad that was pretty much blank, and then the other shoulder pad that had some sort of symbol on it on nearly every one of these guys. That's kind of my thing. You can see my basing here. I wanted to go for like an Ash World look. This is, come on, focus. This is not in focus. Come on, focus. Anyway, this is predominantly all my CA glue and baking soda, and it works out well. There's little pieces of rock and little pieces of cork and even some kitty litter and stuff in there, but that's what I did. And then when I was done painting and highlighting and stuff, all the base, like this guy was painted first, nothing was painted on the base. Then I would go and paint the base, washes, all that stuff, and then dry brush. And then last step would be to dry brush the lightest color, also on his feet and boots, as if the ash is kind of kicking up on his legs. And I did that on pretty much all of these guys. Let's see here. I've got a heavy bolter dude. He turned out pretty well. The thing I loved was how every different guy had like a different weird set of horns going on, you know, and I did a lot of work on that. Here's another bolter dude with, different horns. You know, and they got little different things hanging off their guns. There we go. You know, that kind of stuff is cool. And then this is a missile launcher guy. This is just a regular missile launcher that... you know, a Space Marine missile launcher, because I didn't have a missile launcher for the Chaos guys. So then I just stuck like a spike on the top of it, and I took one of those weird dragon heads that comes in the Chaos Rhino kit, and put that on the missile launcher. And then I used a little piece of fur that comes from, I don't know, probably Space Wolves, and so then there's my guy, you know, and that they worked out really well too. I had a couple of missile launcher guys. Where's this guy? Okay, this is my what kind of gun is that? That's the melt-a-gun. I haven't played in a while. So yeah, this is my melt-a-gun guy, and you'll notice he's got like a spike on the back of his backpack there with a skull on it. This is the guy, if you've ever watched the video I did about how you should personalize your miniatures, this was one of the first miniatures I ever personalized. This guy, before he was painted, was in a battle with a friend of mine at the time, and we were playing Imperial Guard, and he was playing Imperial Guard, and I was playing my Space Marines, and this guy with the Melta got tank shocked by a Chimera, whatever, and he did Death or Glory or whatever, and killed it with his thing, and then he died. But because of that, like, it helped me to win the game, I believe, and so this guy got this special trophy before I painted him, so he's special because of that. I really dig, you know, I don't know. I like that face too. I like that helmet with the kind of like the teeth. Looks kind of like a scary skull teeth, you know, thing. I like those a lot. So these are a bunch of the Black Legion that I did, and they're a lot of fun. So let's see here. Anybody saying something? Anything here? Dun dun dun. Melt-a-gun. But yeah, these guys were a lot of fun to paint. And again, I've had people ask me before, like, who are interested in like Black Templar and things like that. I just primed them straight black and then mixed up my own custom very dark gray kind of airbrush paint and then dusted them from above, and that helps to give you that highlight. And if you do it a little bit brighter than you think you might want to, and then you go back with a black wash, it will just really help to tie it together, and that's what I like to do. I don't generally, go real high contrast. I know a lot of like Sam and a lot of like the pro painters, the people who win awards, they're doing a lot of high contrast because they want the models to look really good from 3, 4, 5 feet away. I always like my models to look good like right here. Like I want to pick this guy up and I want to look at him and go, oh yeah, that guy's really cool. It's kind of dark here, but in general, I want to be able to do that. So for me, that's a big deal. That's what I like to do. And that's why from this angle where you're seeing guys a bit further away, they just don't look like they're kind of all black, but they've got a nice kind of gradient to them, and they work well that way. So I'm going to move a bunch of these guys out of the way before you have to watch all that. I'm going to go back over here. Melt-A-Gun, yes, thank you, Armor Freak. I was having a hard time remembering what that was called for a second there. Let's see here. Let me get these guys out of the way. Reese stated in his podcast he thinks if formations have additional point costs, i.e. the cost of the units plus the points for the actual formation, then that will be a fixed 8th edition uses. I see what you're saying. So you're saying that when the new 40K comes out, if they actually make you pay for the formation costs beyond the fact that you also have to have the models, yeah, I think that would be a good idea. At first I was like, because at first when the points came out for Age of Sigmar, I was like, I don't understand what these point costs are for the formations. I thought you just automatically got the benefit because you use these guys. But then it makes sense. You're getting this added benefit. Just because you have guys doesn't mean you automatically should just get the benefit. But because you have to, you get the guys. If you want the benefit, you have to pay for the benefit as well. To me, that makes a lot of sense. I get that. Let's see here. I love the events and then games that can help you personalize your units. Yeah, same here. I think that personalizing your units is one of the best things about wargaming, is the fact that you can come up with stories kind of for them. You can come up with names for them. Speaking of names, let me just bring out this guy as a stopgap, and we'll talk a little bit about him. But this is, and some of you have seen him before, he's in the intro for every video that I've been doing over the last year or so. This is Uncle Tickles, who at this angle and from this height doesn't look very interesting at all. But if I bring him up a little bit closer, this is Uncle Tickles. He is my Chaos Terminator Lord with dual lightning claws. And again, the light here is a little bright, so you can't quite see the lightning claws. You can see it a little bit. His lightning claws were like a sky blue color, and then one of the last things that I did before I finished him and hit him with varnish was I took an airbrush and I just painted the tips to try to get that gradient to give him that sort of look. Now, the trick is, you're like, well, then how did you not get white all over his legs and his arms and stuff like that? Well, going back again to one of my other videos, I used poster putty. So I took poster putty. You can also use, I think, silly putty for this. But I just basically stuck it all over so only his lightning claws were sticking out of the poster putty, and the poster putty was covering the rest of the front of his body. And then I could just spray the parts I wanted, and the white paint would get on the poster putty, and then I would just peel it away, and it was like a mask that was keeping him, from getting too much stuff on him. This is a great model. This Chaos Terminator Lord kit was always a great kit because you could build it so many different ways. And I wanted him to have the bald head, and not the mask or anything like that, because some of them have the masks with all kinds of horns and stuff like that. I just wanted this to be like obviously like a guy, in there. I painted him the dark red because I thought it would look cool. His cloak is pretty cool. I was pretty proud of the way that came out, because there's a lot of highlighting. This is, if some of my other stuff is very subtle, this cloak is a little bit less so, but because it's so many folds, it still works really well. And you get that cool skull, and there's always a skull somewhere, and there's spikes and whatnot. He's got some skulls stuck on the spikes on top of his carapace or whatever. He's got a skull on his base. That is not a secret weapon miniature skull. That is a skull that comes with the kit, actually. Again, using the same kind of Ash World CA glue and baking soda. But yeah, I wanted them all to have obviously the cohesive look. There's also some pieces of slate in there you can see that's, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is just one of my favorite models that I ever painted, and it worked out really, really well, even though he's not in focus right now. How about here? How about here? How about here? Oh, yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, you just mean face, And again, this guy was sprayed black initially and then highlighted with red, a couple layers of red, like one layer of dark red and a layer of slightly brighter red. And then you can see, like in the shoulder pad here, there's obviously a wash going on there because of the way that it's like, you know, lighter in the middle and like darker along the edges where all everything goes. And it's a lot of layering. It's a lot of layering of washes and stuff, and it's why it takes me so long to paint sometimes. But I do like the look. He's got the regular like black shoulder pad to show his allegiance to the Black Legion, even though most of his armor is red. But that was kind of a thing that I did with this guy. And I came up with a real name for him, but he just basically goes by Uncle Tickles at this point because of the lightning claws, of course. So yeah, that's that guy. Let's see here. It's really cool to cover up parts of your model. Yeah, that kind of stuff, whether you use silly putty or poster putty or whatever, it's great for masking parts off when you need to do other stuff. Yeah. Uncle Tickles gives the best back rubs. He gives you your last back rub, probably. Yeah, I'll give you that. Let's see here. Forge World is getting really good about adding magnet spots, how Games Workshop proper starts doing the same. Or Hope, probably is what you mean, the Armor Freak. Yeah, magnet spots would be really great because, I mean, I understand why they don't do it to some degree over at Games Workshop, because they're like, well, no, you should build a separate guy for every different possible, you know, weapon category instead of just building one guy and having, you know, being able to swap his arms and stuff like that. But the fact of the matter is that people still do it. So I've got a good friend who is slowly, very slowly, building a Blood Angels list. For years he's been building this Blood Angels army, and he's magnetized the hell out of a lot of them, so he can do all kinds of crazy swapping stuff. And yeah, I've done some of that. None of these models, I don't think, no, none of these guys are. There's some guys I have down in the basement that aren't finished, and so everything I'm showing you here is completely finished. I have some guys down in the basement that are like 85% finished. I've got some Chaos Terminators that have some magnetized arms. But they were not, like, their bases aren't finished. I really need to finish them, but otherwise the rest of it turned out well. So let's see here. Other dudes. This is the original. This is Old Drippy. This is my original. He was originally a model, and you probably guys are familiar with him, but this is originally a model for Fantasy. This is the Nurgle Chaos Lord. Well, I decided, because I wasn't playing Fantasy at the time. I don't know why I'm looking over there. This is where the camera is. I wasn't playing Fantasy at the time, so I was like, well, I want to build him for 40K. So what I did was, literally all I did, I put a pistol on his hip, so that makes him 40K, right? I put another shoulder pad on him. I put one of the Nurgle shoulder pads up here, because he doesn't have that shoulder pad there. I put a bayonet stuck into his gut, which he doesn't seem to mind. You know, like someone attacked him and stuck it in there, and he's like, what? I don't care. And then, of course, he's got an old school Chaos backpack, or an older school, not a super old one, but this was my original Chaos Lord for my army, you know, and I just love the way that the model's awesome. I love the model, and I've also made one now for Age of Sigmar, obviously without all the 40K stuff on him. But he's a great model, and I really dig him. And this was one of my first ones. This is the first one I ever did for this model, and it's a great model. And he did in the 4th edition Chaos Codex, which was the first one that I played with, he was actually kind of a badass. When the new edition came out for Chaos, the new Codex, he was no longer that much of a badass. So that kind of bummed me out, but I still have the model, and I still love that model. I mean, like, these two guys together, you'd never usually field them together, I don't think, but they did some work. You know what I mean? Like, they were cool, and I really liked working with these guys. They were great models to paint. Speaking of getting into Nurgle, I'll just run through some quick Nurgle stuff here. This is one of the fine cast Plague Marines. I made all my Plague Marines kind of a greenish, kind of an olive drab color, but still gave them like Black Legion shoulder pads, but they're real grungy and rusty and dark, you know, because they should be. Some of them have been modified to have the 3 skulls, like Nurgle stuff. Let's see, I've got a bunch more. This one is crazy old. I found this one in a bit spin at Adepticon a couple of years, well, quite some time ago. This is metal. This is one of the original old Plague Marines. He's got like crazy bug eyes that like almost kind of vaguely like, you know, Kaiser kind of helmet with the spike on top. And if you look real close, his plasma gun is made out of wood. For a weapon that gets hot, I mean, there's a gets hot rule in plasma. If you roll ones, your weapon will like burn you and stuff like that. And his weapon is made out of wood. That was friggin' awesome when I first discovered that. So yeah, this is one of my plasma gunners for my my Plague Marines. I love the leg armor, how it like almost like it's all beat up and all that stuff. Like I didn't do any of that. This is just a great sculpt. So I was really loving painting him, and just the wooden plasma gun just kills me, and has killed him several times. So that's fun. Let's see. This guy was an aspiring champion, and this one is also fine cast. He's got the cool loincloth, which is very dirty, because I figured if you're a Plague Marine, you wear a loincloth, there's going to be grunge on it, or really, you know. And again, using the Black Legion shoulder pads, but, you know, really grungy and icky. That's kind of the whole point, honestly, of these guys, is grungy and icky. This guy I have also mentioned before, I think in personalizing your videos, or personalizing your models. This guy, he is, if he ever gets in focus, his name is Dirty Dick. And he has 2 bolt guns akimbo. He's into that. And he was originally, again, a find at Adepticon, like in the modeling, like the bits guy. And he's a metal model, and he was covered in just the weirdest paint ever. It was just grunge. And I was like looking at him, I'm like, I'm gonna have to strip all that paint off. It's gonna be a pain in the rear. And then I started looking at the surface and how weird and bumpy it was. And I'm like, no, I'm just gonna paint right over it. Because he looks, I mean, look, he's just like covered in grit. I don't know what the heck kind of paint that was, but as it turns out, when I did my paint job over the top of it, it turned out really well, I think. I really like the way everything's just really bumpy and grungy. Like, look at those guns. I don't know if someone just sprayed it like at point blank range with a spray can or what, but yeah, that's so Dirty Dick is called that because he's dirty. He's very grungy. He's icky. And again, very muted kind of greens and browns, and then those really rusty kind of old kind of shoulder pads that are still technically Black Legion. But yeah, that's Dirty Dick. Do I have any other cool? This one's old, and this one's also old. I bought a lot of my Plague Marines as basically old kits from the bit bin, like at Adepticon. This one is a regular one from Finecast. He's, again, another plasma gunner. You can see the glow hitting him in the face. I like painting those glows on plasma guns and stuff. They're a lot of fun to do, if it ever focuses. There we go. So, yeah. I just love the Plague Marines because they're such great models. And they were pretty powerful in the game, too, so they're really cool. And like I said, here's another old one. He's covered in like weird pustules, which is odd that you get a pustule in your armor, but that's how it works when you're, you know, a friend of Nurgle. You know, in the big gut, they kind of get that big swollen gut, and I don't know where I got this sword from. It's not original, like because they generally wore those. They usually generally use those combat knives that are poisonous. And this guy was just like, he's picked up somebody's chainsword. Why not? Possibly off of a Space Wolf. Yeah, and again, the old, weird, stubby bolter. I like mixing these guys. That's the thing that's really cool about Chaos, is you can use old models and new models, because some of, like, when you use an old model in Chaos, that model's just been around a long time. Like, that particular guy might have been around for the last 6,000 years, because that's what happens when you're a Chaos. There are Chaos, normal Chaos, Space Marines walking around who are from back in the time of the Heresy, because, the gods have just kept them alive. So, yeah. Yeah, wooden plasma gun, epic. I agree. They were awesome. Old model, but yeah. Justin Waller says Dirty Dick and Uncle Tickles can never seem to get a table for two at Chuck E. Cheese for some reason. That's a very good point. I would agree. That's maybe Showbiz Pizza, but not Chuck E. Cheese, definitely. Let's see here. let me think here. What else have we got going on? Matthew says, I cannot get into elves of any kind. Yeah, you don't even have to get me started. All right, so this is the Chaos guys. Now I'm going to try to just quickly show you a little bit of the Space Marine guys. And then we've only about 10 minutes left of the video. So I'm going to just show you those real quick. Okay, so originally the plan was I was going to start into Space Marines and I was going to start painting Black Templar. Well, that didn't turn out, but I did test a Black Templar theme, and since I had done I keep hitting the mic, sorry. Since I had already done Black Legion, I kind of knew how I wanted to do the black, so that wasn't that hard. But I still wanted to do some testing, you know, on the other stuff. There should be one more guy. Oh, no, yeah, no, that's 5, right? Yeah, okay. So I did this, like, you know, group of 5 Black Templar. So like 3 guys with regular bolters, 1 guy with a plasma, and 1 guy with a las cannon. Because at the time, that book, las cannons were the way to go. This guy's got his gun like way up in his face, but he's kind of looking off in the other direction. And if he ever focuses, there we go. So one of the things that was really cool about Black Templar, and one of the reasons I was interested, is because there were kits that you could buy that were just special Black Templar bolters with the chains and all that. Black Templar shoulder pads. You know, there was a lot of Black Templar stuff, so you could do a lot of modeling to really make them different than normal Space Marines, and then paint them up. This guy, whoop, and then they all had like the tabards. I made like every single guy pretty much have those tabards around their waist. So either the short one like that, or you're going to have the much longer ones like these guys. So again, we've got the glow from the plasma hitting him in the helmet, and we've got the crazy tabard. I did all the tabards in a very cream color. I didn't want to make them white. I wanted to make them more like canvas, you know what I mean? Like, and like kind of grungier, dirtier canvas. Like, again, not like as gross as like the, you know, Plague Marines, but still not, you know, like they're not bleaching these things. They're not using bleach on them in between fights. You know, they get beat up a lot. Got the cool shoulder pad here. And another cool shoulder pad with the skull and all that stuff. So yeah, and then I was doing red eyes, and I basically did, and I honestly used pretty much the same technique as far as the basing was concerned. I love using the baking soda and CA glue to make that real fine kind of ash. These had a more of a brown tone, whereas the ones for Chaos had more of a gray tone, but I was still doing roughly the same thing. And then again, now we were getting into our big laser cannon dude, las cannon. Here we go. Still again the tabard. Still again the cool shoulder pads, the red eyes, all that kind of stuff. And I painted up these 5 guys as a test, and I was like, yeah, that's cool. I'm going to do that. And then the new codex came out. Well, basically, it never did. There never was another Black Templar codex. The new Space Marine codex came out, and Black Templar had been folded into it, which ticked me off to no end. And I was like, well, that sucks. So they became a little bit more flavorless, and I just didn't like what they were doing and all that stuff, so I was just like, well, I'm not going to do Black Templar now. Now I'm just going to do regular Space Marines. But I had all these guys built with the Black Templar iconography already on their shoulders and all this stuff. So I was like, well, shoot, what am I going to do? So I came up with my own, chapter is the word I'm looking for. I came up with my own chapter. I became one of those guys and came up with my own chapter. And my chapter I was calling the Steel Cross. And they were predominantly blue, and they had a shoulder pad that was always, like, maybe both their shoulder pads were bone color, or maybe just one of them. I forget now. I started on a tack squad, a 10-man tack squad, and I gotten them all about 85% painted. They're still on pill bottles. They're down in the basement. I didn't bring them up here because I'm only showing you finished models. But, I don't know. They were cool, but they weren't awesome. I did, however, also spend some time on some of their bosses, and I came up with 2 models that I actually did like quite a bit. So this is a captain. Now, he has not got the tan shoulder pads because he's a captain. I've made his stuff gold, but this was a cool model. I really liked this model quite a bit. Gave him the power sword, gave him a really cool bolt gun pistol thingy, crazy, captain head with the gold helmet and, the crazy mohawk thing going on. He's got basically what is a black Templar shoulder pad on this arm, and then over here he's got a crazy eagle one on this arm, and he's also got a fancy cape. The thing that I did about these guys is I wanted all their capes and all that stuff to be all beat up. Like, I didn't want them to go and get brand new capes in between each battle. I wanted to make it so that these guys, as a show of their battle readiness, their capes and stuff were always all kind of beat up, especially at the captain level and that kind of stuff, and below. If they had a cape or a tabard or anything like that, and again, I used the real cream color in the tabards. There's a lot of sepia wash in there and highlighting with bleached bone and stuff like that. Again, you can see there's a good amount of dark wash and going back and doing some highlighting, basically dry brush highlighting with blue. I did some blue glazes, I think, as well. This power sword is not nearly as good as the next one. It's okay. Not in focus. Come on. There we go. But, Sam does them way better, but this one's kind of beat up. It didn't work out as well as I would have liked. But it was a good model. I enjoyed him. It's a plasma pistol. Oh, I see that. Yeah, you can see it's a plasma pistol. But that was a captain. The last guy I'm going to show you here is this guy. Really turned out well. This is my chapter master for the Silver Cross, or whatever they were called, Iron Cross, Steel Cross, whatever they were called. So this is my chapter master. He obviously needs to be blinged out like all crazy because he's a chapter master. It just works out that way. So what I did was I took the captain model from Assault on Black Reach. I took a Dremel to his head and got rid of it. Got it out of there. Had to grind a bunch of the neck piece off and all that kind of stuff. And then I put one of those cool old beaky helmets with the gold laurel on it. And I decided that the chapter master was the only guy who got a white helmet. Everybody else, like captains and sergeants and stuff like that, all got gold helmets, and then the guys below them all had regular blue helmets. But this guy gets a white helmet because he's the boss, and he gets like the super master crafted, blinged out gold, bolter, and he's got all the gold like he's, what's his name there? Mr. T, all around his neck, and he's got the big gold shoulder pads and that weird eagle thing behind him. And I did the gold up on the skull on top of the chapter banner and all that jazz. He's got the big cool tabard, and then he's got, it's dirty but it's not ripped up, but he's got a big cape and all that stuff too. This was kind of a heavy modification, like I said, of that real quick push together model that and then this is a much better power sword job in my opinion. This is a lot of airbrush basically, and the way you do it, and Sam kind of showed you a little bit in that video if you've watched that, and I used roughly the same kind of technique, but you're just basically masking off part of it and then doing some stuff, and then you mask off the other part and then you do the opposite, so that you get this contrast between the blue and the white, and then on the other side you get another contrast between the other blue and the white, and that just makes it look like it's kind of glowing and doing stuff. But yeah, this was really a lot of fun to work with, and I really liked him. And I was really hoping to be able to eventually kind of field him. That one I'm pretty sure is a secret weapon resin skull from the Bag of Skulls. This is just some spike off of, I don't know, something chaos. And then there's some cork that he's standing on, and he's got the brown kind of tone to his bases and stuff. But yeah, this guy is really cool, and I really enjoy putting him together and building him, and he turned out pretty well. That helmet is really white. There's very little highlighting to it or shading or anything, because I wanted it to be like super polished, like really white. So yeah, he was a lot of fun to do. So anyway, that's pretty much my... there's also a whole bunch of, like I forgot to mention, these guys. I've got a whole bunch of these Khorne Berserkers. I don't know, probably 20 of them. And again, they just the standard colors, the red and the gold and all that kind of stuff, and they were a lot of fun too. Those are a lot older of a model kit. There's a lot of them, but they haven't really updated that kit in a while, so they kind of look a little older, but they're fun to do. So, yeah, I'm also a Beaky fan, Melanie. The Beak helmets are the... I wish that that's one of the things I do like about like the Sternguard kit, is that there's so many different little Beaky helmets and stuff in there. Those are a lot of fun, so yeah. But yeah, Sam paints better than anybody we know. It's true. Sam is crazy good. He is super, super, super good. we'll be doing some more videos soon. He's pretty busy right now. He was really busy leading up to Gen Con because he took a bunch of stuff to Gen Con. Because there's the Privateer Press Grandmaster tournament, or not tournament, but painting contest, where he won best of category in 3 categories, and he also won a bronze in another one because he brought four models. So he got best of category in 3, and then bronze in another one. And then he also won some stuff in the miniature hobby, kind of, I forget what they call it, miniature hobby expo. I don't know, whatever. It's basically the Gen Con contest for painting, and he won some stuff in that too. So yeah, he's done really well. But imagine the expense to the army if he gets killed. All that bling for nothing. Well, see, if the chapter master would get killed, then you would have a scenario how you have to go, rescue his armor and his bolter and all that stuff. So that's how it would work. But yeah, no, Sam's a super crazy good painter, and like I said, we're gonna be filming some more stuff soon. I paint obviously very differently and not as well, but I do like to paint, and I do love the hobby. So I do. I'm trying to show this to you, but I don't have that camera turned on. But yeah, it's fun to do, and I do miss some of this with 40K. I miss some of that kind of, getting a whole bunch of guys, putting all together different ways and things like that. But honestly, with Age of Sigmar, I do really like the way that game works as far as the hobby. Again, I've got a bunch of, as you've seen, Warriors of Chaos. I've got a bunch of the Goat People, all that, and it's a lot of fun to work with those guys. So, but yeah, no, I did not show off my Tau. There are some in the basement, but they were like some of the first 40K stuff I painted. They were basically, like I said, just kind of like a dark red with a light orange highlight and that kind of stuff. Oh, one little quick thing I will show though, talking about that, because I did those guys mostly with Rattlecan. If you go back, I did an episode a while back, quite a while back, about Rattlecan techniques, and where is he? And I painted 2 Chaos cultists, and you see them in the video, but these are the guys now here. You can see them a little more up close. Obviously I did the detail of the metallics and all that stuff and some highlighting, but the initial base color is just Rattlecan. I took like a dark brown and then dusted a light brown on top of it, and that was how I, you don't need an airbrush to do that technique. You can just start off, light brown and then dark brown. Here, this guy, obviously, I went back and did the detailing on his crazy shoulder pad and his helmet and all that stuff, but the original green is just a camouflage dark green color, which was then dusted from above with a light green color, and then there's washes and things like that, and the detailing. But yeah, you don't need an airbrush to do that kind of stuff. I forgot to mention those guys. What you need is just some practice and Rattlecan, and you can pull it off. So yeah. Let's see here. I should get back to painting. I have all that Chaos stuff from the Age of Sigmar starter set that I should paint while I figure out your elf army. Yeah, no, I agree. It's important to stick with it, and that's the thing. I've been doing terrain basically as a palette cleanser, but I need to get back into. Basically, I need to attack those skeletons. I've got 50 of them built, based, and primed and base colored, and now they need the next several steps, and then they should go pretty quickly. So yeah. Uncle Adam, how do you feel about making up your own games? I like to mix up minis from different games and make up crazy rules. I think that's totally fun. You can totally do that. There's a lot of people who like to take the normal rules for some game and then just modify it to their own. And as long as you and your friends are having a good time with it, there's no reason not to. Yeah, Adam Medberry asks, where are those gas mask guys from? They're 40K cultists. They're 40K chaos cultists, and which are a great little kit. They came originally in the Dark Vengeance box. I think you can buy them separately, but I'm not sure on that. So, well, it's after 11, and I got to get going. But I appreciate everybody coming by and checking out the video today. We talked a lot, and then I kind of got into this towards the end. But I hope that you enjoyed seeing some of the models and talking about a little bit of my process. I didn't dive super deep into it, but a lot of times it is airbrush priming, just because I live in a place where it's winter a lot and it's really hard to prime outside. Right now I couldn't prime outside either because it's humid. And then just simple highlighting, and then going in and doing your details, and then some washes, and then touch-ups, dry brushing, highlighting, and then done. So yeah, eventually someday I think I'll make a video that will kind of show that, like almost step by step on something, just to kind of see it, because I think it'll help people who are getting new into the hobby understand that it's not as daunting as some people may think it is, but that's where we're at. So, yep. So I appreciate everybody for coming by and chatting and watching. I appreciate Matt for helping out with the moderation. I appreciate that. That's very helpful. Again, you guys should go check out Wreckage online. And if you're into post-apocalyptic skirmish and a little bit of RPG, you can also play it as an RPG. It's a cool book. So anyway, hope everybody has a good fortnight, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. There.